Chosen one, silence every other voice right now and lock your attention on this message. That quiet ache you have been carrying, the one that whispers that your goodness has been wasted, I need you to hear what heaven just released about your life. The enemy is working overtime today for one reason, and one reason only. He knows what is about to be transferred into your hands because of what you gave away. It all shifts in the next 24 hours. The waiting, the wondering, the feeling like your generosity went unnoticed. But listen to me carefully, because this is the part you cannot afford to miss. It is not shifting because of luck, and it is not shifting because you finally figured out the right formula. It is shifting because of what you have already done. You did not find this recording by accident. The algorithm did not bring you here. The Holy Spirit did. This is a divine appointment scheduled before the foundations of the earth, and you are standing at the threshold of a return so significant that the enemy has been desperately trying to distract you all week just to keep you from receiving this verdict. Stay until the very last second, because in the next few minutes I am going to hand you the legal decree that confirms your act of kindness was not small, it was strategic. I am going to walk you through the divine audit so you can see exactly who you touched and why it changed everything. And at the end, I am going to give you the declaration that seals this season of return and closes the door on every lie that told you your goodness went unnoticed. Do not click away. Your future self is begging you to stay, because if you leave now, you will walk away from this message right before you receive the name of what you unknowingly saved. I know what the last 72 hours have felt like. The atmosphere has not just been quiet, it has been strange. Like something is suspended in the air around you, waiting to land. Maybe you have been replaying a moment in your mind that seemed so small at the time. Maybe you held a door open for someone who looked like they were barely holding themselves together. Maybe you sent a message to a person you had not spoken to in months because something in your spirit told you to check on them. Or maybe you gave something away, time, money, a meal, a kind word, when honestly you were running low yourself and no one would have blamed you for keeping it. You did it anyway. And then life moved on and nothing seemed to change. You feel like you are standing in a hallway between two rooms, one door closed behind you and the other has not opened yet. The silence between those doors has started to feel like rejection, like evidence that your sacrifice did not register. And in that silence, the enemy has been whispering a very specific lie. He has been telling you that the reason you are still waiting, the reason the breakthrough has not landed yet, is because your act of kindness was not enough. He has been replaying that moment in your mind and shrinking it, making it feel ordinary, making it feel like the universe did not notice. He is telling you that the person you helped has moved on, that the seed you planted fell on concrete, and that your chapter of reward has already passed you by. But I need you to hear what the scripture actually says about this moment. Proverbs 19:17 says, "Whoever is kind to the poor lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done." Listen to that promise. He will reward them for what they have done, not what they will do, not what they are about to do, what they have done. The reward was already assigned the moment you acted. The debt is already on heaven's ledger. The transaction has already been recorded, and God does not default on what he owes. The enemy wants you to believe the seed died, but the truth is, the seed found soil you never even knew existed. That person you helped, you did not know their assignment. You did not know what they were carrying or where they were going, but God did. And he positioned you in that moment, not because you were the most qualified, not because you had the most to give, but because you were the one who would say yes when everyone else walked past. You unknowingly saved a very important person. The heaviness you feel right now is not the weight of being forgotten. It is the weight of a harvest that has grown so large it is pressing against the door, waiting for the moment God pulls it open. You think your kindness was a footnote. You think it was a small thing that got lost in the noise of someone else's story. But let me reframe your reality right now. That was not a footnote. That was the headline. That moment of generosity was not a detour from your destiny. It was the very act that activated it. You did not delay your blessing by giving. You signed the order that released it. What you did in that quiet moment when no one was watching, when there was nothing to gain, when kindness cost you something, that act was not random. It was not small, and it was certainly not forgotten. There is a record being kept that most people never think about, and it is more precise than anything built by human hands, more indelible than any earthly inscription. This isn't some ethereal, vague memory. It is a meticulously kept ledger in the divine archives, a scroll unfurling in the heavenly realms, where every sincere intention, every quiet sacrifice is faithfully recorded. Imagine angelic scribes, not with quills of ink, but with the very light of creation, etching your selfless deeds onto the fabric of eternity. Every time you extended grace when your own spirit was weary, when your soul felt frayed at the edges, every single instance you gave when your own cup was barely half full, perhaps even chipped and emptying, every moment you chose compassion over the seductive whisper of convenience, over the ease of turning away, it was written down, not metaphorically, not as a beautiful turn of phrase, nor as a poetic flourish for a future song. It was written down as a divine fact, a testimony of your true heart, seen and acknowledged by the one who sees all. This silent chronicle is more than just an account. It is a living testament, breathing with the truth of your spirit, waiting for the appointed time of its unveiling. Some messages don't just inform, they activate. If something stirred deep in your spirit just now, you may be ready to receive the Chosen One's blueprint. This sacred guide reveals the 8 divine patterns behind your calling, your suffering, and your destiny. It also comes with the full audiobook, so you can absorb it during prayer, rest, or quiet moments with God. And for those called to speak His truth, you'll also receive Activating Your Prophet Mantle, a powerful bonus ebook for those carrying a prophetic assignment. The link is in the first pinned comment, but only for a limited time. Now here is what most people never understand about kindness. They treat it like a fleeting personality trait, a mere happenstance of disposition. Some people are just naturally warm, they shrug, and others are not. This trivializes its profound power, reducing a divine force to a superficial preference. But that is not what kindness is at its deepest, most potent level. Kindness, true kindness, the kind that exacts a price from your reserves, whether of time, energy, emotion, or resource, is not simply a virtue. It is a spiritual act of warfare. It is, in fact, the most underestimated and potent weapon in the divine arsenal, a silent yet shattering force. Why? Because it moves in direct opposition, in an inverse spirit, to everything this temporal world is built upon. The world, in its often brutal calculus, openly rewards the aggressive, the ruthlessly calculating, the ones who relentlessly take, who amass, who assert dominance through power and self-interest. And so, when you choose to give without calculating the immediate return, when you extend warmth without a single expectation of reciprocity, when you sow generosity into barren ground, knowing it may yield no visible fruit to you, you are doing something profoundly disruptive. You are not merely being nice. You are functioning in a frequency, a spiritual vibration that most people cannot even begin to access, let alone comprehend. You are operating on a wavelength of unconditional love, mirroring the very heart of the Creator, and in doing so, you introduce an anomaly, a grace note, that reverberates through the discord of a self-serving world, creating ripples of divine order where chaos once reigned. It is a quiet rebellion, a subversive act of grace that fundamentally challenges the prevailing scarcity mindset and transactional relationships. But here is where it goes deeper, far beyond the initial act. The person you helped, that individual whose path you crossed, whose burden you lightened, the one you may have long since forgotten in the labyrinth of your own life, they have not forgotten you. More than just a fleeting memory, your act left an indelible imprint on their soul, a seed of gratitude that has been quietly nourished by the universe. And more profoundly, the weight of what you did for them has been accumulating, like spiritual deposits gathering divine interest in an eternal account. Think about the timeless narrative of Ruth and Naomi, a story woven with threads of unwavering loyalty and profound selflessness. Ruth, a young woman, faced a crossroads that appeared to demand she sacrifice everything familiar and comforting. She possessed clear options. She could have easily returned to her own homeland, found comfort among her people, rebuilt her life, and sought a husband within her familiar cultural norms. Yet, in an act of radical devotion, she chose to walk with a grieving, bitter, empty woman named Naomi, a woman who, from any earthly perspective, had absolutely nothing left to offer, nothing visible, anyway. What Ruth, in her profound humility and steadfastness, could not possibly see was that her seemingly simple, yet deeply loyal, act of kindness was attaching her to a powerful, shimmering divine thread. Every weary step she took beside Naomi, every shared tear, every act of provision in the fields, was meticulously pulling her closer to Boaz, a kinsman redeemer, drawing her nearer to restoration, to abundant provision, and ultimately to a lineage that would not just produce a king in David, but would eventually cradle the Messiah himself. She did not know that cosmic significance. She only knew the call of her heart. She just kept being faithful, relentlessly, steadfastly. She just kept being kind, even when circumstances offered no logical reason to be so. And in the unseen, divine tapestry, heaven kept threading the needle, aligning destiny with quiet devotion. You, in this very moment, are Ruth. You do not yet fully perceive the magnificent, unseen architecture that your faithfulness, your quiet acts of steadfast kindness, has been diligently constructing. You cannot possibly know the full magnitude of whose life you profoundly altered with that one compassionate conversation, that one shared meal offered from a humble table, that singular, yet potent, moment of genuine, heartfelt care. But trust this truth. The divine thread is being pulled, irrevocably, purposefully, and what is now coming toward you, accelerating through the fabric of time and circumstance, is the glorious, undeniable consequence, the promised harvest, of seeds most people plant, and then, in the busyness of life, forget about entirely. These are the seeds that the divine gardener has remembered, nurtured, and now calls forth into abundant fruition. And this leads us to something most people entirely miss, a crucial distinction often blurred by a superficial understanding of generosity. There is a profound difference, a spiritual chasm, between kindness that flows effortlessly from an overflowing abundance and kindness that demands a deep, soul-stirring sacrifice. Anyone, let's be honest, can afford to be generous when their coffers are overflowing, when they possess more than enough, when giving costs them nothing but a slight reduction in surplus. That, while good, is not truly a spiritual act in the transformative sense. It is an act of comfort, a gentle flexing of a muscle that is already well fed and rested. But when you gave from your profound lack, when you stretched beyond what felt possible, when you showed up for someone else while you yourself were still bleeding, metaphorically or literally, still nursing your own wounds, still navigating your own deserts of depletion, that is the kind of raw, vulnerable offering that moves heaven differently. It resonates at a higher frequency. It is the timeless narrative of the widow and her 2 copper coins, recounted by Jesus himself, unfolding all over again in your life. She gave everything she had, her entire livelihood, and Jesus, with profound insight, stopped, turned to his disciples, and declared with an awe that transcended monetary value, "This woman gave more than all of them." Not because the amount was great in worldly terms, for it was meager, but because the cost was everything. Your sacrifice, born from the crucible of your own need, has been seen, recorded, and classified in that exact way. Whatever it cost you, and it did cost you, perhaps dearly, perhaps invisibly, it has been elevated, weighted, and accounted for differently than you could ever possibly know or imagine by the divine ledger keeper. It has been transformed into an invaluable treasure laid up in the eternal realms. Stay with me. Remain anchored in this truth, because what is coming next is the pivotal insight, the powerful revelation that breaks the insidious cycle most genuinely kind people often find themselves trapped within. There is a deeply felt reason, an understandable ache, why genuinely kind, generous, and compassionate people so often experience feeling overlooked, unseen, or even undervalued. They are the silent pillars, the unseen architects of comfort and support. They serve diligently behind the scenes, without fanfare or expectation of applause, like quiet streams nourishing hidden roots. They carry burdens that, by all rights, are not even theirs to bear, extending empathy and assistance where others might recoil. They pray fervently, often late into the night, for people who never once pause to ask how they are truly doing, how their own spirit fares. And after enduring this quiet, often thankless dedication for long enough, an insidious question, a serpent of doubt, begins to creep into the sanctity of their heart. Does any of this truly matter? Does God even see the invisible sacrifices I'm making, the quiet work I'm performing? This gnawing doubt often intensifies because the world, in its often perverse mirroring, relentlessly rewards people who seem to operate with far less integrity, far less genuine love, and certainly far less profound sacrifice. Their visible success can become a bitter comparison, and that question, if it is allowed to linger unanswered, if it is not confronted with divine truth, begins to fester, transforming into a deep spiritual wound. And that wound, if left untended, if it is allowed to putrefy with resentment and unacknowledged pain, becomes the poison of bitterness. And make no mistake, bitterness is not merely an emotion. It is a thief, a malevolent shadow that comes with the singular intent to steal the very harvest, the abundant recompense that is already, at this very moment, on its way to you, irrevocably destined for your soul. It erects a barrier, a wall between your spirit and the blessings that seek to flow into your life, blocking the very channels of divine reception. But here is what you absolutely need to understand, to grasp with every fiber of your being in this precise moment. The delay you have experienced, the prolonged waiting, the seasons of apparent stillness, was never, ever a rejection. It was, in truth, an intricate, purposeful preparation. Think deeply about the timeless story of Joseph again, not merely as a dramatic tale of sibling betrayal and eventual triumph, but as a masterful narrative of divine sequencing, a testament to God's meticulous, purposeful timing. Joseph had to first be cast into the desolate pit, a place of despair and abandonment, before he could be sold into servitude and later wrongly imprisoned. He had to endure the suffocating confines of that prison, where hope seemed to dwindle with each passing day, before he could stand, refined and ready, before the most powerful man in the known world, Pharaoh himself. Each successive stage of his journey, each new hardship, looked and felt like utter abandonment. Each passage whispered the lie that God had forgotten the sacred promise made in his youth. Yet, every single location, every single trial, every single unexpected turn was meticulously positioning him, shaping him, and preparing him for a profound encounter, a pivotal destiny that would not have been possible, that could not have been sustained, had he arrived even a moment too early. You simply cannot rush the harvest without irreparably destroying the root. And for you, beloved soul, your root has been going deep, extending its tendrils into unseen depths, anchoring you with strength and resilience. What looks like an agonizing delay from your limited vantage point, from where you are currently standing in the landscape of your life, is actually the vital, foundational, underground work of something monumental, something eternal, something that will outlast and transcend everything superficial and fleeting around it. It is the strengthening of your inner core, the expansion of your capacity, the quiet building of an unshakable foundation for the magnificent future God has ordained for you. Now, once you truly understand that profound truth, that delay is not denial, but divine preparation, you are finally ready for this next revelation. And this is precisely where the entire narrative of your life begins to powerfully, irrevocably shift. The person you unknowingly saved, the important individual whose trajectory you subtly altered, whose life you touched with a moment of genuine kindness without even comprehending the full, weighty significance of that interaction, they have not forgotten you. More than that, they have been carrying you in their spirit, perhaps as a silent blessing, a quiet resonance of gratitude that has unknowingly advocated for you in the spiritual realms. There are specific people in places of considerable influence, in positions of authority you could not yet imagine, in significant rooms you have not yet even entered, who have not, for a single moment, forgotten what you did. And there is a divine moment rapidly approaching, already in motion, a sacred convergence of circumstances, where a door is going to swing wide open before you, seemingly effortlessly, and you are not going to fully understand why it opened for you with such ease, such grace. You are going to feel a profound sense of being unqualified, perhaps even experiencing the familiar whisper of imposter syndrome. You are going to quietly wonder if there has been some kind of administrative mistake, a cosmic oversight in your favor. But let me reassure you with absolute certainty, it will not be a mistake. It will be the return, the long-awaited recompense. It will be the precise, detailed record of your quiet kindness being read back to you, not in the cold language of accounts, but in the vibrant, affirming language of blessing and divine favor. What was meticulously sown in secret, in the quiet, unseen corners of your faithfulness, will now be powerfully, gloriously, and publicly called forward into the light of recognition and reward. And just when you think you've received the full, panoramic picture of God's intricate working, just when you believe you've understood the complete unfolding of His plan, there's one more layer, one more profound insight to uncover. And this one, above all others, truly changes everything. Most people, operating from a worldly framework, genuinely believe that their long-awaited breakthrough, their moment of divine elevation, is primarily coming because of their innate talent, their meticulously crafted strategy, or their sheer, unyielding persistence. And while none of those attributes are inherently wrong, nor are they without their place in life's journey, they are fundamentally not the primary currency of divine favor, not the ultimate catalyst for heaven's intervention. The primary, most valuable currency in the economy of God is character expressed in the dark, integrity forged in the crucible of unseen moments. It is what you diligently choose to do, the virtues you embody, when no one is watching, when no applause rings out, when no recognition is forthcoming. It is the radical kindness you demonstrated when you were utterly invisible to the world's discerning eye. Understand this profound truth. God does not primarily promote gifting, for gifts are often given freely and can be misused. He promotes faithfulness, loyalty to his principles, consistency in love. He elevates and empowers the ones who have proven themselves trustworthy with little, those who stewarded their small assignments with unwavering dedication. Because the divine principle, etched into the very fabric of the universe, has always remained the same, immutable and true. If you are faithful in small things, in the seemingly insignificant details of life and service, you will, without fail, be given authority over much. And the small things you navigated, the quiet acts of devotion you performed, have not been as small as you may have dismissively thought. They were, in fact, the training grounds, the proving grounds, the foundational blueprints for the magnificent authority and influence that is now being prepared for your stewardship. But let me challenge you with something deeply transformative, something that requires a courageous, honest look within. Because this is the confrontation, a sacred internal reckoning, that absolutely must happen before the fullness of your breakthrough can be truly, unreservedly received and integrated into your spirit. There is, for some of you watching this, something hidden beneath the surface of your profound kindness, a subtle, often subconscious, motive that has silently tethered your heart, and it must be named, brought into the light, if you are to step into your complete freedom. Because for a specific portion of those listening, the true reason the promised return has not yet fully arrived is not because it is late, nor because it has been forgotten. It is because, somewhere along the path, your beautiful kindness became inadvertently mixed with an unspoken, deeply ingrained need for validation. The acts of service you performed were undeniably real. The sacrifices you willingly made were genuinely profound and heartfelt. But underneath it all, somewhere deep in the quiet chambers of your soul, there was a silent expectation, a subtle hope that someone, anyone, would finally notice, that someone would finally affirm your worth, that your boundless goodness would at last earn you the profound love and acceptance you have been longing for, perhaps for a lifetime. And when that recognition, that affirmation, that external validation never materialized in the way you hoped, the giving, despite its initial purity, started to feel hollow, draining, and ultimately unrewarding. And let me be clear, that hollow feeling, that sense of internal emptiness, is not an indictment of your heart. It is not a condemnation of your spirit. Rather, it is a sacred, compassionate invitation from the divine to examine the deepest root of your giving, to inquire into the wellspring from which your generosity truly flows. Because here is the unexpected truth, the profound paradigm shift, the one you probably did not see coming, the revelation that will dismantle old patterns and liberate your spirit. God does not want you to give so that you can finally feel worthy, so that you can earn his affection or approval. He wants you to give, not times to become times worthy, but from an already established, foundational place of deeply knowing that you times are times worthy, inherently and irrevocably so. There is a cosmic difference, an immeasurable chasm between generosity that is rooted in a profound sense of wholeness, security, and unshakable identity, and generosity that springs from a deep, unhealed wound, a perpetual striving for external affirmation. And some of the delay, the gentle pause in your life, has been God patiently waiting, not with impatience or judgment, but with an immense, encompassing, unwavering love for you, to cease giving in a futile attempt to earn what he has already, in his boundless grace, freely given you. Your inherent worth, your undeniable value, is not a reward for your service. It was not purchased by your good deeds. It was unequivocally established, declared, and sealed before you ever did anything, good or bad, for anyone, for yourself, or for him. And the glorious, liberating moment that truth truly settles in your spirit, that it anchors itself deep within your being, becoming an unshakable knowing, your entire approach to giving will fundamentally shift. It will transform from a heavy obligation, a burdensome requirement, to an unstoppable, spontaneous, joyful overflow. And overflow, by its very nature, cannot be contained. It cannot be stopped. It is a magnetic force that effortlessly attracts more. It multiplies exponentially, creating abundance where scarcity once dwelled. It draws to you all that is meant for you, without striving, without effort, because you have aligned with the very heart of the divine. And here is the final thing, the ultimate revelation. This is the truth that reframes all of it, the one that makes every past moment of kindness, every quiet sacrifice, resonate with profound meaning. The most important person you unknowingly saved, the individual whose life you impacted most profoundly. It was not merely the stranger you helped, the friend you consoled, or the person in a visible crisis you rescued. In some of those pivotal moments of radical, self-sacrificing kindness, you were, in a very real, very deep spiritual sense, saving a vital version of yourself. Because every single time you chose to remain soft, to keep your heart tender, to hold on to your empathy in a world that relentlessly tried to harden you, to steal your spirit, to make you cynical and defensive, you were actively protecting, preserving, and safeguarding the part of you that heaven absolutely needs intact. That tender part, the deeply compassionate core of your being, the believing part, the segment of your soul that clings to hope and sees the divine in others, even when it's obscured. The vulnerable part, the aspect of your spirit that still reaches toward people without the heavy, protective armor of cynicism or self-interest. That precious part of you is not, and never has been, a liability. It is, in fact, your most potent anointing, your divine signature, the very essence of your spiritual power and purpose. And the enemy, the adversary of your soul, has been relentlessly trying to convince you to kill it, to extinguish that vital flame through the insidious poison of disappointment, through the searing pain of betrayal, through the wearying silence of unanswered prayers. He has sought to harden you, to make you withdraw, because he knows, with absolute certainty, what that exquisite softness, that unwavering tenderness, that believing heart is truly capable of when it is finally, fully, divinely activated. You have been diligently guarding, protecting, and nurturing a sacred gift, a treasure of immense power that you didn't even know you were carrying within your own soul. And now, the season has irrevocably changed. The necessary, often hidden phase of protection is ending. The glorious, powerful, transformative phase of activation has begun. The time has come for your true anointing to rise and shine. Place your hand on your heart and declare this with me. I release the need to be seen in order to keep giving. I release the bitterness that almost convinced me my sacrifice was wasted. I release the version of me that kept giving from a wound, and I step into the version that gives from wholeness. I declare that every seed I have sown in secret is now being called into harvest. I declare that the doors opening before me are not accidents, they are answers. I am not behind. I am not forgotten. I am not overlooked by heaven. I am precisely positioned for what is coming. My kindness was never weakness. It was the language of my calling. And I walk forward today knowing that the most important thing I ever did was stay soft, stay faithful, and keep going even when no one was watching. I am ready. I receive it. And I will not shrink from it. If this message confirmed something your spirit has been carrying for a long time, do not let this moment pass without acting on it. Like this video, share it with someone who has been giving without return, who has been faithful without recognition, who needs to hear that their harvest is not lost, it is coming. And if you want to go deeper into understanding why your life unfolded the way it did and what God is activating in this next season, The link to the Chosen One's blueprint is in the first pinned comment below. This is not the end of the message. For some of you, it is the beginning of everything.